Okay. Once again, outside a coffee shop here, trying to keep track of what's going on. So, just need to know if you guys can actually hear me. Literally got here just moments ago, been very busy running around. Did my other one preview. Okay, did half an hour ago. That's good news. All right, let me get this up on the other window and see if I can't hear it. Okay, so, okay, is it starting? Dismiss that. Live chat's what I want, not top chat. Live chat, there we go. Okay, and is it there? Come on, there we go. And is it? All right, sounds good. All right, guys, yeah, good, you got it. All right, so the breaking news here, I've already done a video on it, published it shortly after it came out. Within the first hour finding out about it, I'll give credit to Ernst von Sale, who sent me a note letting me know that that judgment had been reached in the Western Cape Court. And I went ahead and made a video. I went and found several sources. I found the judgment. I got the judgment from Mark Oppenheimer, and I'm going to read part of it. I see that Willem Petzer went live for about 11 minutes to discuss this a short while ago, and I'm not going to try to repeat what he said. I only caught the end of what he said. He wasn't giving AfriForum credit for the case. He was giving it to someone else. There was more than one respondent in the case, so we're going to talk about that. But welcome, everybody. Be sure to hit the like button if you're coming in here, joining us. Like button would be fantastic. Also, if you're a first-time viewer, we could appreciate subscription. The shadow ban has really been oppressive since I arrived in England. Difficult to get views. It seems the only time I'm getting views is when I talk about Juju. So we've already done a couple videos on him in the past few days for his nonsense in Nigeria. And now finally, a court is holding to account. But let's not get too excited, ladies and gentlemen. Let's not get too excited. We know how this all works. We know exactly how this works. Malema will appeal it to the Supreme Court of Appeal. First, he'll appeal it to this court. They'll reject it. Then he'll appeal it to the Supreme Court of Appeal. They'll probably give him a free pass. If they don't, he'll go to the Constitutional Court on constitutional grounds of free speech. And then he'll be told that you can sing songs and encourage people to murder white people. It's okay in South Africa. So just give it time. That's probably what the outcome is going to be in the end. We're going to see that he gets away with what he always gets away with. I mean, why should it be any different this time than it's been every other time? He's a nasty human being. But the thing is that the really sad part about Malema is that I don't think he believes anything he says. He just says it for attention. He says it for money and for his donors. That's why. He thinks it's going to get him votes, but it doesn't get him votes. It just pisses people off. And it's more evidence for Donald Trump's refugee program that South African racial minorities are under pressure when this sort of thing is allowed to happen. I did hear Willem Petzer at the end of his conversation say, this is proof, contrary to a lot of people say that the courts do work in South Africa. I would argue quite the contrary, Willem. This is a one-off, and it will be appealed, and I suspect probably overturned. If this is appealed and upheld by the Supreme Court of Appeal, then I'll have comfort. But remember that the North Gauteng High Court said it was perfectly legal to discriminate against whites, Indians, and coloreds with the Tourism Relief Fund. We've also seen that when Malema was charged with hate speech by the courts, and one of the best constitutional attorneys out there, advocates, Mark Oppenheimer, was there to try the case and question him. He still got off. He got off scot-free, even though he presented a very solid legal case of his guilt. And even though Malema basically admitted his guilt on the stand, he still got away with it. So let's talk about what's happening here, folks. Let me get these on so I can see just a little bit better. All right. So this is today. It was shared by email in the Equality Court of South Africa Western Cape Division. And this is the South African Human Rights Commission and Dante van Wyk are the first and second complainant against Julius Malema, the economic freedom fighters. Now, strangely enough, the captured South African Human Rights Commission did not have any news on this on their website when I went to press with this a while ago. So this is from Judge Scher. He says, I have before me two applications which were considered and heard as a single application in which the complainant seek orders declaring that certain statements which were made by the first respondent constitute hate speech and unfair discrimination on the grounds of race and or belief, alternatively harassment in terms of the Equality Act. Well, more to the point, I say that the speech was actually incitement to violence. And then in my view, if I were a judge sitting on this, the evidence presented before me, I would have found him culpable of inciting violence and ordered his incarceration. But then I'm not the judge, thankfully for you, Malema, because having been a judge previously, this is a likely conclusion I would have come to. By agreement between the parties, the matter proceed in respect to issues pertaining to the merits of the complaints only, with those pertaining to relief which is sought standing over for later determination. So his penalty has not been decided. That comes later on. The first complainant is the South African Captured Human Rights Commission, an independent body established in terms of Chapter 9 of the Constitution and the South African Human Rights Commission Act, which was tasked with the constitutional mandate of protecting and promoting respect for human rights, except it doesn't do that. It's the Black Supremacy Commission. It's not one that guarantees the dignity of all South Africans. It's very selective in its cases. Yes, it has gone after a few black South Africans, but they're nobodies. They're just people on the street who made the mistake of opening their mouth at the wrong time and attention being brought to it. But the daily abuse, like the gentleman who called for the murder of white South Africans, called white people creatures. Did you catch that? That rant in that TikTok video? I used part of that footage earlier today to make my point about Lindiwe Sisulu and about Julius Malema and about that clown. That gentleman has not been arrested, charged with anything. And we still have seen no positive outcome in the case of Nobs Mkhize, who racially insulted colored flight attendants on a FlySAF Air flight from Durban to Cape Town. Not only did she insult them and undermine their human dignity, which should have been a punishable offense in the so-called equality court, but she should have been arrested for endangering public safety and the flight. She endangered the safety of all the passengers on that flight with her physical assault of flight attendants and others who tried to restrain her after she assaulted the flight attendants. Nothing's ever come of that. The captured South African Rights Commission is busy still pursuing its case against Ronaldo Khoes, despite the fact that he gave a groveling apology. Yeah, he hasn't quite settled that case yet. So anyway, the first respondent is Mr. Julius Sellotape Malema, a politician who is the founder, president, and commander-in-chief of the second respondent, the Economic Freedom Fighters, a political party. Yeah, that's a joke. The statements which are the subject of complaints by the applicants were made during a speech which the first respondent delivered almost 3 years ago on October 16th, 2022 at the occasion of the Third Provincial People's Assembly of the second respondent, the EFF, in the Western Cape. The parties agreed that in presenting their cases, they would not be confined to their affidavits, but also offer oral evidence. To this end, the second complainant tendered the evidence of Dr. Karian van der Berg, a forensic linguist and senior lecturer at the University of Northwest, who conducted a linguistics analysis of the offending part of the speech, and the respondents called Professor Stephen Friedman, a political scientist in the humanities faculty of the University of Joburg, who gave his interpretation and understanding of it. In addition, the second complainant called his attorney, Ms. Westley, and the respondents called Mr. Luvuko Ntakana, a member of the EFF, to give evidence pertaining to certain events which transpired on the 9th of November 2020, parts of which were depicted in the video, which was shown in evidence. The parties referred their witnesses to certain documents which were contained in a joint trial bundle, Exhibit C, which included a series of photographs which were seemingly taken as stills from the video. At the conclusion of the argument, it was stipulated by argument that the court would be entitled to have regard all of the documents in the trial bond, including those not specifically referred to. Anyway, so just quickly the background of this, and then I'll get into a discussion, a bit of analysis about what has happened and what the consequences are. There should be severe consequences, but I seriously doubt there'll be any consequences. The ladies with the strong perfume that hurt my teeth have come back. Where are they coming from? Walking from behind the building in a parking lot. Interesting. They're back. The narrative which follows is drawn from the evidence which was tendered, the video, pleadings, and documents in the trial bundle. During September 2020, scholars at the Brackenfell High School were advised that its annual matric farewell function would not be held at school due to COVID-19 pandemic, which led to a nationwide lockdown and declaration of state of disaster earlier that year. The parents of one of the children then arranged for the function to be held at a wine farm on the 17th of October. Invitations to the function were sent to all matriculants and teachers. Despite this, on November 1st, 2020, the father of a child at Brackenfell School shared a YouTube video and post about the event. It's a race hustler, in which it was alleged that it was being held for white scholars only because they're hateful, shameful, racist, and they did this. They tried to set Brackenfell up, and we saw what happened when the EFF tried to start nonsense. They ran like little bitches from the scene and vandalized a car parking lot. But when one water can was turned on them, they ran like little crybabies. As a result of these and other social media posts, members of the second respondent resolved to hold a protest at the school as they considered this to be an instance of racist behavior. The only racist behavior was the conduct of the race-hustling EFF racist who tried to set up Brackenfell School. Everyone was invited. They just lied about it. According to the report by the second respondent's provincial deputy chairperson, on their arrival at school on the 6th of November, they were met by a group of heavily armed white people. We have the video. They weren't armed. The only thing they were armed with was their physical bodies. The cowards from the EFF are apparently afraid of white bodies. Who tried to block them from proceeding, provoked and threatened them, but they were forced away into the school gates. Forcing away into school gates is trespassing and it's inciting public violence. So they admitted their wrongdoing here. A police contingent arrived and asked them to disperse as the gathering was illegal. That's the third crime they've committed. But the deputy chairperson contended they had the right to particular without a permit, which they don't. The police facilitated a meeting between the EFF group and representative from the school's governing body, at which time certain demands were made, including that the teachers who attended the function and principals should be sacked. The group then dispersed. 3 days later, on November 9th, a larger group of EFF members arrived at school for a second round of protests and follow up on their demands, at which time matriculants were writing exams. So they harassed the students who were taking their exams at school with the objective of causing them to fail the matric because they're racist. They were met outside the school by a group of parents, local residents, and security guards. And the deputy chairperson described as a mob of whites. The mob was the EFF. These are the people who then went and trashed a car dealership, destroying brand new cars. That's the mob. The ones that had to be dispersed by water cannons, that was the EFF. That's the mob. There was no white mob. Anyway, so enough of that. We're not going to go through the whole case. It's 126 pages, and that's thunder. So who knows how long this stream will go for. We're back up to a respectable number of people, 520, but not 1,300 like we normally have. So let me get to his conclusions here. And it is a long judgment. Like I said, 100 and some page, excuse me, 70, is it 70? I'm sorry, 39, 170 sections, 39 pages. Not going to read all 39 pages. I'm up to section 110 of this thing now, getting towards the end. Here we go. So I'm going to get towards the end of this thing. Section 115, paragraph 115 of this judgment says, in summary, therefore, the offending statements referred to in the first respondent speech, as set out in the preceding discussion, constitute an exhortation to kill white males who participated in the incident on 9 November at the Brockenfell High School, and to kill or respond violently to any persons who engage in racist behavior towards members of the second respondent. In other words, Julius Malema gave a speech in which he told his members to murder white men. They were based on the grounds prohibited by the act and constitute hate speech contrary to provisions of section 10, as they demonstrated clear intention to incite harm and to promote or propagate hatred. A declaratory order to this effect must accordingly issue. All right, so just a moment here. Insofar as the statements were made by the first respondent as the president, commander-in-chief, and leader of the second respondent, in its capacity as political head and their leader of all its activities, and the exercise of his constitutional power to make pronouncements for and on its behalf, and the second respondent, the EFF, endorsed and supported these statements in the media advisor, which it issued in these proceedings, it should be held jointly liable. So the economic freedom fighters and Julius Malema have both been found guilty of hate speech, both found guilty by the Western Cape Equality Court. Given that I found in favor of the complainants in respect to the first and main complainant of hate speech, it is not necessary, nor is it tenable, to make any finding in respect to the alternative complainant of harassment. So they're not going to go to harassment because obviously hate speech is harassment. As regards the submission that I should also find in their favor on the second complaint of unfair discrimination, such a finding seems to me at odds conceptually with the scheme and tenor of the act and what is envisioned by it. Well, then refer that to a criminal court, because that's a criminal complaint, not the equality court, but the criminal court. Oh, gosh, it looks like I'm going to get drenched here in just a moment. It's getting rather dark and ominous here. Sun is over there, but I got rain right overhead and a lot of thunder going off. Thank you for the super chat. That's a couple have come up already. Yeah, if their behavior was indeed racist or had racist features to it, which may have justified the statement. However, in my view, given that what was said was combined with an incitement to commit harm and violence and to propagate hatred, my finding to the effect of the first complaint is neither necessary nor would it be appropriate for me to express any view of this. Finally, although counsel for the complainants acted pro bono, they requested that if applications were to be upheld, costs should be awarded. In my view, given their efforts and nature, the complexity of the matter, and its importance, it is fair and appropriate that the complainants' counsel and attorneys should be compensated for their services, and that the order should include costs consequent upon the employment of two counsel for each of the complainants. So the judge has found in favor of the South African Human Rights Commission and the other complainant, saying that the EFF and Julius Malema must pay for the cost of two attorneys and their fees. In the result, I make the following order. It is declared that statements in the speech which made by the first respondent occasion the holding of the Third Provisional People's Assembly on the 16th October 2022 constituted hate speech, contrary to provisions of Section 10 of the Equality Act 4 of 2000. They were based on grounds which were prohibited in the act and demonstrated clear intention to incite harm and to promote and propagate hatred. The respondents shall be liable jointly and severally, the one paying the other to be absolved, for the complainant's cost of suit, which cost shall include the qualifying fees, traveling costs, and cost of attendance of the expert witness, Dr. Kardian Fundebag, and cost of her two counsel, the one counsel on note scale C and the other in scale B, which is obviously the payment level for these things. So Juju and the EFF have been found guilty of hate speech 15 years after the fact. I know this incident occurred in 2022, but the point here is that these people have been at this for a long time. It is long past the time, high time, that they were found liable or culpable for their actions. Quite frankly, as I said in my video, I think they should be held culpable for the rapes and murders that have occurred in their name after this nonsense. We've seen this stuff scrawled on the walls in people's blood after they've been butchered. And these people should be held liable for their actions, but they're not. So News 24 ran a short story saying the Equality Court in Cape Town on Wednesday found EFF leader Julius Malema guilty of hate speech. They also found the EFF guilty, my friends. The case followed 2 complaints against Malema, one by South African Human Rights Commission, another by an individual who said he'd been threatened as a result of the statements. The matter stems from EFF rally on October 22nd, 2022, 2 years after the party clashed with residents at Brockenfell High School, which they precipitated and which they caused over a fake racial incident, which they fabricated because they're just race hustlers. There was no invitation that excluded black or colored students. They chose not to come of their own volition. And then they used that to try to create nonsense. Moderators, I'll leave it up to you to keep an eye on the chat. I'm busy analyzing this and offering assessment. So I'm also getting rained on here. It's raining. During his address, Malema told supporters, "Tell that white man to try me. I'll come many times here in Western Cape appearing in court case because no white man is going to beat me up and call up myself a revolutionary the following day. You must never be scared to kill. Revolution demands at some point there must be killing before the killing is part of the Revolutionary Act." Yeah, that's what he said. And Judge Mark Scher found Malema had demonstrated clear intention to incite harm and to promote or propagate hatred, which is obviously what his goal was all along. Again, I don't really think that Malema is a racist. I also don't think that he's as stupid as he acts. This is all an act, a show for attention and for donors, and he gets money from it because it suits the political needs of a certain class of people in South Africa, and therefore he does it. He does it, he does it, he does it. That's what he's all about. But it is earth-shattering news that a court in South Africa actually upheld the law. Now, I have an issue with the law against hate speech. I don't think speech should be regulated, except for violent speech to incite violence. And I believe this was speech to incite violence, and he should be tried criminally, but that's a separate matter. And apparently that's not going to happen. It is very fascinating to see that he got a free walk at the trial that Mark Oppenheimer oversaw and questioned him. And he clearly stated that he basically called for the killing of whites and walked away scot-free. Here, he doesn't walk scot-free. It was just a matter of time before Malema stepped on his crank one time too many. I suspect there'll be more court cases filed against Malema now by a number of people, and he'll spend the rest of his days potentially spending all of his fortune, ill-gotten gains on lawyers. That's what I suspect will happen because he just doesn't know when to stop, and he'll keep it up for a long time. So let me just take a break there and say we got some super chats that came through. I think I missed a few of them. The first one's already gone through, so let me go back to that and check on it. I'm getting drenched here now, folks. You know, this is England. What did I expect? The sun was out when I sat down here. The sun is out about 3 kilometers to the south, and overhead is a rain cloud. Welcome to England. Welcome to England. That's how it goes, folks. All right, let me get to the supers here and see if I missed something here. So, see, oh, that's what I want. Okay, there we go. All right, so I've got 3 of them. He will never accept this ruling or apologies. No, he won't, Werner DeWalt. Thank you for the 70 Rand. Werner Fundamental gave 35 Rand for bird feet. And Malema is putting up a show, but people are getting hurt. That's true, Teresa Molstart. That is, in fact, the case. And that's why I say he's such a dangerous individual that he's allowed to get away with this nonsense. So, AfriForum's case was lost. A law lady went back to high court in the height speech and had better proof, and she won the case. Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that statement. That's what Willem Petzer says, and I don't know that I agree with that. The evidence presented by, I've been a judge in cases before, the evidence presented that I heard in the Malema trial was sufficient to convict him of the crimes that he was charged with. The fact that he wasn't shows to me that the courts are captured. It sounds to me like Willem Petzer just got something against AfriForum. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. Maybe I misinterpret what he said, but anyway, yeah, so in the chat, we've got, let me go back here at the beginning. So Rainer Smith, well, they didn't report he would appeal when I left to come sit down at a coffee shop. They only had a brief report. I read you the whole report. So I already said he's going to appeal at my video, which I believe was the first one out. Not that it really matters. The best quality should be what matters. David Muller, Raymond van Croy, Mad Max, Peter Petersay, Ludwig, Anne-Marie Nell, JJ. Okay, what else got here? Can't believe that most South Africans actually think the judgment is a big win. You're all in dreamland. Do you know what it means for a consolation prize? Yeah, I'm saying, Ben, just don't get too excited, but it is still earth-shattering news. Imprisonment would be good, but he's not going to get imprisonment. He'll get a fine, which someone else will pay. Okay? Man has followers, non-followers that feel exactly about why it's what he says. Exactly, Annette. You're right about that. That's a true statement, and that's the problem. And they act on it. So happy you eventually saw that TikTok. No, I saw it a long time ago, Lynette. I just didn't have a copy of it. I can't be putting other people's content up. People were sending me links to Petzer and other stuff where they've got their logo on. I can't use that. I can't take their content. So I'm not going to use it if I can't find the original. Unacceptable words in a so-called chant that leads to murder. They are common. Yep. This is a strike 3 for Malema, and the law states severe penalty, which is 5-year prison. What are the other 2 strikes for Malema? What is he ever being convicted of? I don't recall him being convicted of anything. So, yeah, they would make an example of it if it was a white South African. Look what they did to Vicky Momberg. Vicky Momberg was accosted, nearly murdered, nearly carjacked, and was in shock when police responded. She wasn't disrespectful to the colored police officer. She, in her estimation, thought the black police officer was rude to her. Also, the assailants were black, and she was responding in shock. None of that was taken into account. She was convicted and sent to prison as a felon. Well, Malema deserves the same fate. He harmed the dignity of millions of people. She harmed the dignity of one cop who wasn't doing his job properly. She wasn't right, but that didn't deserve criminal felony conviction and prison time. It's ridiculous. For speech. Only cowardly governments ban speech. A News 24 reported the black judge asked why 2 elderly whites murdered on a farm should be classified as a farm attack. I didn't see that, Napoleon Dynamite. Where did you see that at? News 24 is hiding news from me. I'm a subscriber. People can be hateful towards white people. It used to be in Gauteng, but now starts. Yeah, it's also in the Western Cape. My goodness, see many crickets pass over already. Cloud just hanging over top. It was moving fast and it stopped over top me. Getting drenched here. I can't go inside because they're playing music and I'll get a copyright strike. I hate YouTube. And 30 meters over there, the sun is shining. 30 meters away. Come on, come this way. Blow the clouds away. I had to get a tissue to clean off my laptop. I feel offended my president calls us cowards. Okay. The cost awarded to the plaintiff, in my speculation, will take forever if he ever pays. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Those women to the left bottom are actually drinking tea. The English love their tea. I have no idea what you're talking about. There's no women to my left bottom. You're talking about the reflection in the mirror? Send sellotape to Japan or China. I don't think Japanese want them. All I know is that if they try to lock Juju up for anything, the same crap will happen what happened when they tried to lock up Zuma. No. He's not loved in the way that Zuma was loved. And his support is dispersed around the country. It's not a mass of Zulu who will uprise like the Zulu did in KZN. So, no. There may be some sporadic, violence here and there, but you won't see, if Malema gets locked up, what you saw before. It won't happen. Julius Malema is not nearly as popular as people believe he is. He's not nearly as popular. And now that he's been exposed, perhaps more people will have the courage to file lawsuits against him for his transgressions against them. This thing about Julius is going to be used by the government as an eye blind to the U.S. to show they're doing something about the racism. Yeah, but it isn't going to convince anybody in the U.S. government, Fabian. We all know better. We're not stupid. What happened to CB? I have no idea. CB was here the other day. Yeah, it's an adult sippy cup, guys. A large cappuccino. No, I heard that Skid Marks has cancer. That's the last I heard about him. 335 Rand, thank you for that. Gather any of you tuned in to the press conference by Durko today and what Lamola said about and the Kenyans making it clear that South Africa will not assist in nothing but apartheid 2.0. No, I didn't see a press conference by Durko. I'll have to look for that. Thank you for that. Let me go to Durko's website. Durko.gov. I've got to go get a tissue and clean up my paperwork. So give me a moment here, folks. Go get a serviette. Don't run off on me. God bless it. This chair won't move. I'll be right back. I have to clean this up, otherwise my laptop's going to short out. Don't run off. Entertain yourselves. All right, how many people bailed? There's always somebody that leaves. Actually, we gained an audience. I guess the screen is better when I'm off of it. Let me lock this up, try to wipe it down without making too much of a mess here. Wow. It was only a little short, like a spring rain shower, but boy, it left a lot of water on my laptop. Try to clean that up really quickly here so we don't get any damage here. Last thing I need is my laptop failing on me. I wish I had my compressed air. I could blow that, would blow all this water right off. Right off now. And it would just come right off the screen. Anyway, hopefully it doesn't rain again. That should take care of things. Hopefully it does the trick. Thank you. Both hands on that mug. You might pull a bicep. Yeah, it's a pretty hefty mug of coffee. I'll tell you that much. You got that right. All right, so got it. Pin is incorrect. I know the pin's incorrect. I didn't use it. Okay, we're good. We're back now. All right, let me wipe off my mobile phone, which is my source for Wi-Fi, because the Wi-Fi in this coffee shop isn't working. The last coffee shop it worked. This one isn't working. So they all may look alike, but they don't all function the same, these Costas. My goodness, there's a lot of water on this table. I didn't realize how much there was. I need to clean up so I can use the mouse. Sorry about that, folks. A little housekeeping has to take place here as I sit in the elements here in England, merry old England, where I just got drenched. The crowd's gone. Hopefully another one doesn't come and replace it and become a problem for me like that one was. Okay, cool. All right, there we go. That's good enough. We're back now. Thank you for being patient. Thank you all for being here. All right, so where were we at? I was in the chat looking at what you all had to say. Now Julius is qualified for a government job. That's funny. No, I don't know what happened to Durko. So I've gone to Durko. I don't see anything there. It's just their main page. And so news, media statements, okay, speeches, okay. No, I didn't see anything from him. So I'll have to check in on that one. Powder keg. Oh, at Brockenfell. Yeah, it was crazy. But when the real trouble happened at Brockenfell, nobody was there. The kids were at a school when that demonstration actually happened. The one that caused all the headaches, where they trashed the car lot. Okay, there we go. Yeah, no, if we were South Africa, the laptop would be gone by now. That's true. That's true. But we're not in South Africa. And, you know, it's not unheard of for it to disappear in England either. So, you know, just to put that in perspective. Okay, I'm going to freeze this. I'm going to reload it here. Okay, so leaving your laptop and phone unattended, that would never happen in South Africa. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, why is my page not loading? Oh, I lost my internet connection here. How did I lose my internet connection here? Am I still broadcasting? Huh, maybe I must have knocked it out by doing something here. Hopefully the water didn't knock it out. Link and Telegram was very long. Yeah, no, send me the link and I'll look through it. My network, it's not working now. Oh, that's not good. Okay, now I'm connected again. Okay, there we go. Well, that's crazy. What happened there? All right, yeah, okay, I'm back now. Back to live chat. Okay, there we go. All right, wow, that was weird. That was strange. Yeah, so Malema is found guilty by the Western Cape Equality Court, but that really doesn't mean anything. There's no chat here. What the hell? Come on, YouTube. Oh, yes, pick up music in the shop, but I was only in there for a moment, so I was in there less than 7 seconds, so I should be fine. I forgot about that. Good point. No, the rugby's only on the weekends. I'm enjoying it on the weekend, and it's coming up on the weekend. Okay, now I've got the chat back, finally. My goodness gracious. Okay, there it is. Okay, got it. Man, that's crazy. So I use the chat on my laptop because it goes by, the screen over here is this big, and it goes by too fast. No, I'm not using MTN. I'm using something I picked up at the airport. I got 200 gigs for, was it 35 or 45 pounds? It was a really good deal. I've used 16 gigs. Shaw Spence, I use both hands. Thank you for the 70 Rand. Okay. All right, where are we at here now? Leaving your laptop, phone unattended. Yes, okay. You guys got me 5x5. Okay. Okay. Well, Malema is on the Judicial Services Committee. That's the comical thing. He should, as a consequence, he should be removed from the Judicial Services Commission at a minimum. At a minimum. For, you know, you can't have someone convicted of hate speech being a member of the Judicial Services Commission responsible for picking the judges that oversee legal cases for things like hate speech. I mean, that's just insane. That conviction should disqualify him. In fact, it should disqualify him from serving in Parliament. I don't know if it does because he didn't commit it as a member. Well, he did commit it as a member of Parliament. So I think Parliament should take up this case. Yep. All right. So I hope this starts the whole thing breaks. Let me see if they've updated the News 24 story really quickly here. There you go. They have updated. Clear intention, incite harm. Malema found guilty of hate speech. Yeah, now they got a full story here. Okay. And let's see what it says. Yeah, but I've also got, let's read what the EFF has to say about this because, okay, where's that at? Here we go. EFF. The EFF says, we note the court's ruling as an attack on the democratic space and the right to articulate revolutionary politics. Revolutionary politics. Who are you inciting a revolution against? So I'm getting spam calls from America here. Who are you inciting a revolution against? Against the ANC? Against black majority rule? I mean, what revolution do you need here? What revolution do you need? You have everything. You have control of the government. You have control of the military. You have control of the judicial system. You have control of the police. You have control of the economy. What revolution do you need here? The language of revolution cannot be sanitized to comfort the sensitivities of those who continue to enjoy the fruits of colonial dispossession, who never experienced racial violence whatsoever. Really? Never experienced racial violence whatsoever? I'm sorry. Are you familiar with the 4,000 people that were butchered because they're white on farms? Or the thousands of other white South Africans murdered in the name of racial hatred? Not to mention people whose land has been stolen from them, who's been possessed and not returned to them, that have been denied opportunities, never experienced racial injustice. You people are about as dumb as a box of rocks at the EFF. The real violence is the daily reality of landlessness, unemployment, and racism that black people endure. Racism black people endure from whom? Not from white people. They bend over backwards to be apologetic to black people in South Africa. Oh my gosh. It's unbelievable how apologetic white South Africans are for things they never did. As I said in my video, which just aired a short while ago to Lindiwe Sisulu, you're whining about people who don't exist. The people responsible for the things that hurt her feelings are dead, or they're politically neutered. They have no say, no control, no power. The people you're discriminating against with your racism were born after apartheid. The vast majority of South Africans were born after 1994. It's just the demographics. Look up the demographic population of South Africa. The majority of the population was born after 1994. It had nothing to do with apartheid. They've only known ANC oppression. That's it. So when these racists run this garbage, it means nothing. I'm going to read the statement to you in just a moment. Let me enjoy my sippy cup of cappuccino there. All right. So Wednesday, 27 August 2025, the Economic Freedom Fighters notes the ruling. By the way, the Economic Freedom Fighters can't notes. The Economic Freedom Fighters have to note. It's plural, you dumbasses. Notes the ruling delivered by the Equality Court, which upholds the South African Rights Commission's claims and statements made by our president, Commander-in-Chief. Commander of what? Retards? Julius Malema constitute hate speech and incitement to violence. This judgment is a grave distortion of history, philosophy, and the nature of political speech in a democratic society. No, it's a correct judgment against race hustling and an incitement to violence. The court concluded that certain remarks made by the Commander-in-Chief at the EFF Western Cape 3rd Provincial People's Assembly on the 16th of October 2022 could reasonably be construed as demonstrating a clear intention to incite harm, because it was. The court relied on Section 10 of the Equality Act, acknowledging that freedom of expression is a core constitutional right and indispensable facilitator of democracy. However, the court held that this right is not absolute. It's not, and does not protect speech that advocates hatred or incites harm. And the court was correct. The conclusion is fundamentally flawed and deliberately misreads both the context and the meaning of the speech. The court interpreted Malema's statements, "You must never be scared to kill. A revolution demands at some point that there must be killing." This is a war between white supremacy and black consciousness. There is no white supremacy. This is a fallacy. It's utter nonsense. If there are white supremacists, they have no power. Where is their power? Where are these white supremacists in power? In Canada? In the UK? Where white people are discriminated on a daily basis? In the United States? No. These white supremacists that they fear don't exist. They're just boogeymen, the Baba Gaya that they've created, a fictional narrative to support their black supremacy. You must, so this is a war between white supremacy and black consciousness. You must know the two will never meet. And racism is violence, and violence can only be ended by violence. Well, the people committing the violence are the black supremacists, as little instructions kill white people. The interpretation strips the speech of its political, historical, and ideological context, reducing revolutionary critique to criminality. It assumes that the reasonable listener is incapable of understanding metaphor, revolutionary rhetoric, or the history of liberation struggles. Well, the problem is that the South Africa's education system is so poor, so weak, and so ineffective that with a 30%, 30%, 30%, and 40% in your first language passing mark for matric to move on to university, many South Africans finish school and they're functionally illiterate, incapable of reasonable judgment, and therefore easily incited to violence by stupidity like this. So contrary to this statement by the EFF, a reasonable person, what is a reasonable person in South Africa? A functionally illiterate adult? The court ignored three critical realities. Firstly, that Malema's remarks followed a Brockenfell incident where white racists assaulted black protesters. Factually incorrect. They weren't racist. They didn't assault. The black people assaulted them, and they responded in kind. We saw the videos. Who were standing up to the racial exclusion of black students by the school. That's false. That's a lie as well. There were no students excluded from the school. The school has white, colored, and black scholarship students who go there, who white people pay so they can go to the school. So get your facts straight. And nobody was excluded from the dance. The black students chose not to go of their own volition, and therefore one of their fake race-hustling racist parents tried to turn into a racial incident. And the EFF, ever present to stoke racial hatred, jumped on the fake case of racial segregation and used it as a pretext to cause violence at the school and threaten school learners. That's what happened there. That's the facts. His comments emphasize that racism itself is violence and cannot be passively endured. Well, are you telling that white South Africans should rise up against black supremacy? Is that what you're saying, EFF? Because your racism against them would be violence by your own definition. So by your own admission, EFF, you're committing violence against racial minorities, which once again reinforces the argument by President Trump that South Africa is a problem for racial minorities. So you see, every time they open their cake hole, they just dig a deeper hole. Secondly, the historical context of South Africa was built on structural and physical violence against black people. That's actually not true. It was built on structural institutional violence against the Boers, against the Afrikaner. That's what it was built upon. And then it went from there on to others. The anti-apartheid struggle indeed included armed resistance because the system left no alternative. Actually, that's not true. There was an alternative. The Black Sash movement, Steve Biko, Black Consciousness movement, lots of people who stood up to apartheid. The media stood up to apartheid. So there were alternatives. That's simply factually a lie. The armed struggle wasn't necessary, and it didn't achieve the end of apartheid. Had the armed struggle actually achieved the end of apartheid, you could make that argument. But these are ignorant, wholly uninformed morons who don't know the history of South Africa, who are trying to make the argument that the armed struggle was necessary. And by the way, there were no EFF members in the armed struggle. These little twats weren't even in the seed of their parents' sack when this occurred. So the anti-apartheid nonsense has to go away. Shall we sit around and complain about the Xhosa Boer Wars of the 19th century and use that as justification for stealing land from people? Shall minority South Africans go and repossess land from all the Xhosa as a consequence in what used to be known as K-land? Yeah, that was a place in South Africa called K-land. Should they take the land back from the people who have because of the wars? I mean, this is ridiculous. It's absolute nonsense. Because the system left an alternative, as the system still does this day in order to protect our children and continued racial discrimination. Your children aren't racially discriminating. You're promoted above every other racial group. You're held higher than anyone else. You have more rights than anyone else. Stop your lies. Thirdly, the EFF is a Marxist-Leninist and what is a Fanonian movement? Therefore, our analysis society recognizes class and racial contradictions. When Malema spoke of war, it was a reference to the irreconcilable conflict between white supremacy and black consciousness, a war of ideas and systems. Well, black supremacy is where the war is at. And you're fighting the war, black supremacy. Anyway, that's the EFF's response. It's a bunch of nonsense, gobbledygook, and nobody really cares. Nobody really cares. Let me see how many people looked at it since it went up. It had 9,000 views earlier. It's probably got a lot more now. It is now at 22,000 views. Yep, 22,000 views. All right, by contrast, let me see how my video with a small audience is doing. Shocking. Oh, that's Danelle. That's earlier. So I got to turn that one off. Guilty. What does this say? They've got 20. I've got 30,000 views on my video, and the EFF, which has 2.3 million followers, has 22,000 views on its statement about the case. Now, they will surpass me because they have a much bigger channel on Twitter than I have on YouTube. But isn't that ironic? Because people don't want to hear the garbage that they're spewing, because that's what it is. It's garbage. Well, the rain clouds are blown over, so it looks like we're okay. Yeah, they are a bunch of clowns. Malema's still living in 19 footstep. That's why he's still talking about a revolution. Yeah, it's Jan van Riebeck's fault. Well, guys, you have to update. It's not just Jan's fault and Hendrik Verwoerd's fault and apartheid. You have to add Donald Trump in there, too. Donald Trump and Elon Musk, of course, are to blame. Remember, don't forget to blame Donald Trump and Elon Musk for exposing South Africa. Oh, and I suppose you ought to throw Solidarity, AfriForum, Emma Powell, Andrew Whitfield, DA in there, too. Yep. Don't type in caps. If you're typing in caps, your message will be removed. What it was removed here. Imagine being black. What does that mean? Don't type in all caps. Save from the rain, climate change. Yeah, the climate's changed, Dylan, just like that. It's amazing how it changes instantaneously. Belinda Fundavest, and Chris is fluffing like a simple old woman instead of breaking story about AfriForum by Christian Morning. What the hell are you talking about? What are you talking about, Belinda? This is the breaking story. Why are you being rude and disrespectful to me? What hair is up your ass? What the hell are you talking about? Listen, Belinda, if you don't like the commentary, then footsec. Leave. No one's twisting your arm to be here, but you're not going to be disrespectful to me in the chat. You'll get taken out. Wow. That's just rude. What's your problem?
Yeah, you.
Oh, the Durko page disappeared. Let me get it back here. Stop blaming Jan. Oh, I'm sure the FF will blame me. They already have. The little minions come after me a lot. No, Belinda is probably one of those black supremacists pretending to be an Afrikaner. El Marie Swartz says, thank you for 7 years. Thank you for all you did. Was in Cape Town this week. Back now, Mr. Livestream. Glad you're back, El Marie. Glad you're safe. Okay. Yeah, no, the person's definitely trolling. Yeah, the bunny is... Did I bring the bunny? Did I leave him in the car? I must have left him in the car. Anyway. Yeah, I'm sure that person is trolling. The AfriForum came out with a statement straight away, as did the Democratic Alliance. Democratic Alliance trying to take credit for something they did nothing to affect. Yep. Clouds are gathering, clouds are gathering, clouds are gathering. Tata, clouds are gathering, clouds are gathering. Wax on, wax off, wax on, wax off. Okay, we got another person who's trolling here too. Benjamin's trolling. So, Benjamin, you've been warned. Okay. Keep it up, you'll get a timeout. Clouds are gathering, clouds are gathering. Clouds are gathering, clouds are gathering, clouds are gathering. Peter Rabbit Softies. Okay, well, the one I have is pretty cool. That's like for little kids, but I like it. What about Nick Fuentes if Malema is guilty of hate speech? I don't know anything about that. All right, so back to what AfriForum had to say. Ernst Funsell, speaking on their behalf, said AfriForum's years-long pressure campaign has finally bore fruit with the Equality Court in Cape Town ruling today that Julius Malema, economic freedom fighters leader, is guilty of hate speech. But don't forget, they also said the party's guilty too, folks. Yep. Clowns are gathering, clowns are gathering, clowns are gathering. This case follows an AfriForum and its members submitted a torrent of complaints to South African Human Rights Commission 2022 regarding his statements during the EFF provincial meeting in the Western Cape when his case was lagging with no updates by 2023. AfriForum lodged a complaint with the South African Human Rights Commission. And that's a complaint that went through. So, yeah. Anyway. According to Ernst Funsell, head of public relations at AfriForum, the Equality Court's judgment confirms and underscores what most already know. Malema and the EFF are extremists that incite violence against minorities and spread a message of racial hatred. It is outrageous that the president of South Africa invited Malema to rejoin the ANC in 2018. He continues to treat him with kid gloves. In fact, I covered that. When Cyril Ramaphosa lied to President Trump in the Oval Office at the White House, and he said that we disavow this, that we don't want anything to do with this, I showed right after that the video from just a couple years before when he says Julius Malema's natural place is in, and EFF is in the ANC. We welcome them back into the ANC. And he went back to South Africa and he said, we're not going to do anything about it. It's free speech. He can say what he wants to. He can sing what he wants. We're not going to do anything to him. So, of course, Ramaphosa lied to President Trump intentionally. That's what he did. I see some of the trolls left. We were up to 810. Now we've lost 30 people. So, hey, Mad Max. What is that? Durko. Okay, let me find that then, Max. And I can save that. Thank you. Cool. I'll save that for later on. Hour and 20 minutes. Okay, cool. Thank you for that. Okay, I'll save that for later on when I have hotel Wi-Fi. It's not a goat. The trolls are gathering. The trolls are gathering. Yep, trolls are gathering. Arctic received a bottle of Jack Daniels from one of your cousins. Oh, is Belinda still being rude? I didn't see anything else from Belinda after that one message. Ah, the trolls are gathering. There's lots of them, man. Trolls are gathering. Lots of little hate wankers showing up here tonight. Oh my goodness. Yep, I see mods are busy with the hate wankers. Busy with the hate wankers. All right, cool beans. We clapped hands today and the rains appeared, and then I woke up, my coffee was cold. My coffee's getting cold now. Yeah, before you leave, trolls, make sure you hit the like button, okay? Appreciate that. All right, so that's AfriForum's response. I wrote to the Freedom Front Plus. They did have a response, but they sent it to me in Afrikaans, and it's on this phone, so I can't get to it. Here we go. We've got it in English now. Dr. Corne Mulder's response. This is from Freedom Front Plus. It's high time that Julius Malema, leader of the EFF, is brought to book for his hateful and racist remarks, and the Freedom Front Plus welcomes today's ruling by the Cape Town Equality Court finding Malema guilty of hate speech. The court found that statements made by Malema in 2022 in Cape Town, along with placards displayed by EFF members, constitute hate speech and incitement to violence. The case stemmed from complaints lodged by the Human Rights Commission following an incident in 2020 at Brockenfell where parents of schools learners clashed with EFF members. Among other things, Malema asked why a man who had been in physical altercation with the EFF member had not yet been dealt with. He also added that a revolution sometimes requires killing. In response, the Freedom Front Plus lodged a complaint against Malema and the Human Rights Commission in October 2022, and shortly thereafter, the HRC found that EFF leader was indeed guilty of hate speech. The Freedom Front Plus insisted that the Human Rights Commission should take decisive action by charging Malema in the Equality Court, which it did. It's necessary to note today's ruling does not broadly condemn Malema's racist remarks or his frequent singing of the song Kill the Boer. It is, however, encouraging the South African court made this finding and once again shines a spotlight on last year's appeal court ruling that Kill the Boer does not constitute hate speech. The Freedom Front Plus maintains that Kill the Boer is indeed hate speech and divisive, particularly in a country like South Africa where racial tensions frequently flare up and must not be tolerated. Malema clearly started to think that he's untouchable and can insult, threaten, and slander as he pleases with impunity, particularly after the appeal court ruling, and I agree. President Cyril Ramaphosa would do well to note today's court ruling, especially after he refused to condemn Kill the Boer when recently confronted about it by U.S. President Donald Trump. The Freedom Front Plus hopes that the court's finding sends a loud and clear message to everyone in South Africa. Hate speech and racial division are intolerable, and the habit of using context as a blatant excuse to justify it is even more unacceptable. The Freedom Front Plus fully concurs with the saying that the mouth speaks what overflows from the heart. Well said, Dr. Mulder. There you go, folks. So that's the Freedom Front Plus. I'll get to the DA response here in just a moment. Are we still getting trolls, or they've all left? Amazes me how they always say white supremacy. Gee, if that was the case, I'd be living... Exactly. What white supremacy? What are they talking about? Where are these white supremacists at that they talk so much about? You mean the fake guys dressed in all the same cargo pants coming from Quantico pretending to be white supremacists in America? All, academy students from the FBI Academy there in Quantico? Yeah, are those the white supremacists you're talking about? Where are these white supremacists at? I am in my 7th decade of life, or 6th decade of life. I've never once seen the Klan anywhere, ever. I saw them on television once a long time ago in Columbus, Ohio, when they claimed they're going to go up and stop federal busing, and they were going to have a big gathering of the Klan. And like a dozen guys showed up in hoods. It was ridiculous. People laughed at them. There were more counter-protesters than there were Klan members. So where are these white supremacists at? Where are they at? I don't know. Are they in power somewhere? They're not in power in South Africa, that's for damn sure. They're not in power in England, that's for damn sure. Not in Canada. So where are they at? Please tell us where they're at, Juju, and all you little hate wankers. Oh, Belinda's hidden on the channel. Okay. What do people miss? Nothing will happen. Well, Garrett Fundaventa, that's what I said. I said, don't get too excited about this. Gerhard Schultz, am I a troll? I don't know. Only you can answer that. Your behavior would determine whether you are or not. What if Juju would have been found guilty if there wasn't U.S. pressure and tariffs? It's a good question. I wonder. I think it's a very fair question. Would, in fact, that have been the case? Not yet. The night is young, says Arctic. Yeah, they're capturing as much information as they can, Alan. They're trying to find something they can use here. But here's my advice. To the trolls, to the black supremacists, to the white liberal hate wankers that are watching the program right now. Self-gratification is not a good end. Find yourself a partner and love your partner. Don't love yourself. You should release your member. because that blood flow is important to your cranium. So for all you hate wankers, you leftist trolls, you black supremacists, you right-winger nut jobs, you left-wing bizarros, love yourself, but not that way. That's a little too much love, okay? Not that way. Find a partner to love you. Don't love yourself in that fashion, because it's not healthy, guys. It's not healthy. You know, if you keep that up, if you're right-handed, this arm is gonna get bigger than the left, or if you're left-handed, this one's gonna get bigger than the right. You know, it's gonna, you know, and you're gonna literally take that phrase, you know, that Arnold used to say, "We want to pump you up." You're gonna pump yourself up, and you know, you're gonna be walking around, and your biceps gonna be bulging out of one side of the sleeve, and the other one's just gonna be hanging there floppy. It's not healthy, guys. It's not healthy. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. And for the ladies, you know, you can injure a digit if you're not careful. Just saying. No, he's not going to go to jail. Don't count on that. Don't count it. Don't count on him going to jail. Yeah. Now, can you imagine injuring a digit and then you can't use that finger? Yeah. Vivant will pump you up. No, Ronell, the female's got to be careful because they'll injure a digit, you know. I see that there's an interview of Theo Diager done by Ernst about EWC on Lex Libertas channel. Should be interesting. Okay, Lindy, thank you for sharing that. I'm playing matchmaker. So Quinn says, that's why my right arm is stronger than my left. There you go. There you go. See, that's why I drink my coffee in an adult sippy cup. That way no hand gets stronger than the other. See? Balance, equilibrium. I drink my coffee evenly. See? See? That way one arm isn't bigger than the other. All right, let's get to the Democratic Alliance now. The Democratic Alliance welcomes the court ruling against Malema's hate speech. The Democratic Alliance welcomes today's Western Cape Equality Court finding that Julius Malema is guilty of hate speech, and we commend the South African Human Rights Commission for pursuing this matter. I don't commend them. They're still after Ronaldo Khos. They still haven't punished Nobs Mkhize. They let Notaboloy walk. Notaboloy said the most vile and repulsive things about people, and he didn't get a slap on the hand. He got a joke apology, which he made fun of, and he read, and he added one word to it. Ridiculous. This is a victory for the rule of law, for our Constitution, for all South Africans who cherish the values of free, fair, and non-racial society. Well, I would agree with that. For too long, the world has watched as Malema has incited violence, hatred, and division, attempting to unstitch the very fabric of South African society. His hate speech was most recently aired live from the White House in a meeting between President Trump and Cyril Ramaphosa and a South African delegation. This type of divisive language is not just damaging at a local level, it has international repercussions as well. South Africa's reputation on the global stage is at risk when such hatred is condoned or ignored. And we see the captured media, we see Kanana Hunter, we see Max Dupree, we see all these leftists out there covering for this garbage, saying that insidious actors are undermining South Africa's reputation, going abroad and lying about it. Nobody's lying about South Africa, man. Everything they say is true. And no one's undermining your governance. You, ANC, are the ones undermining it. Your corrupt, captured courts are the ones undermining your reputation. Your actions undermine your reputation. Your racist laws, more than the National Party ever had in place. You're the ones doing it, no one else. The DA will explain further action that can be taken to enforce serious consequences against the hate speech of Malema on the back of this groundbreaking judgment. Good. Are you going to bring cases? Because right now, what has the DA done? Let's see. They sat by and had zero influence with Ramaphosa as he signed expropriation without compensation, the Basic Education Laws Amendment Act, national health insurance, nothing. They have no influence whatsoever in the government. They're just biatches. They have no say. They have no voice in foreign policy. They have no voice in policing, no voice in justice, no voice in anything except agriculture. What's going on there? Foot and mouth disease is running rampant in Northwest Province. It's all over the place. What's being done about foot? Oh, I'm sorry. The vaccines were sold off to Botswana. So you don't even have a vaccine. Now, that's not Steenhuisen's fault. That happened before his time. But what are they doing? The only impact that the DA is having in government seems to be in home affairs. That's about it. Somebody want to correct the version there? South Africa's Constitution protects freedom of expression, but it draws a clear line where speech incites hatred, discrimination, or violence. Only that's not been the case until now, unless you're white. Julius Malema has repeatedly crossed that line. A political leader who incites mass murder is not normal nor permissible. The DA has fought against this for years. Really? How? Part of the reason we joined the government in national unity was to keep destructive and hateful political parties like the EFF out of our nation's government. Well, that's very self-serving for the DA. The reason the DA joined is because they were hungry to get their hands on the meals. They wanted the glory. They wanted the political influence, and their willingness to accept backseat driving second-class citizenship in the government of national unity is proof that they weren't serious about protecting South Africans. Because if they had been, they held all the cards and they didn't do anything about it. They did not insist on justice, foreign policy, finance, the military, intelligence, none of that. All of that's under the control of the ANC, just like Zimbabwe, the so-called government of national unity there that was forced on them by SADC after it sat by and watched Mugabe steal an election that he lost. Even though he stole the election, he lost. He refused to leave office. He remained in office illegally. Zimbabwe has not had legitimate rulers since 1980, since Mugabe won the first time. Everything since then has been cooked. The DA has no influence in this government. So I don't buy their argument that they did to keep others out of the government. The court's judgment affirms that no one, regardless of position or political office, is above the law. Oh, I'm sorry, DA. Pala Pala? Isn't that above the law? I mean, doesn't that go above the law? I mean, is Cyril Ramaphosa not above the law? Why is he not under the docket? Why is he not being criminally charged? What about Dr. Zweli Mkhize? The Hawks found that he was guilty, but he is above the law. What do you mean no one's above the law? Lots of people above the law. If they're senior ANC members, are all above the law. Jacob Zuma, 25 years later, still hasn't been prosecuted for his crimes against with the arms bill. You know, it's ridiculous. Give me a break, man. So look, you say nobody's above the law, but the reality is lots of people are above the law. They really are. I mean, honestly, you're going to try to tell me that they're not above the law. Give me a break. I mean, it's a nice thought. It makes a nice bumper sticker, and I appreciate the DA trying to convince us that no one's above the law, but that's simply not true, folks. If it were true, then we would not see what's going on in South Africa right now. Just ridiculous, man. Ridiculous. To tell me that no one's above the law. That's just insane. Of course people are above the law. Cyril Ramaphosa is above the law. Absolutely is.
Money stuffed in my sofa, a treasure untold.
Money stuffed in sofa.
She's got her game right. Stories unfold.
Pala Pala, ritzy joint.
Glimmer and gold. Stay overnight, don't you stray. Couch cushions hide a rainy day.
Kapala,
Where the secrets lay.
under the cushions, the cash will stay. Pala Pala, don't give it away. Rainy day, rainy day. Hey. Sorry, DA. I'm not buying that no one's above the law. Cyril, Zweli Mkhize are above the law. Beckett Chile above the law.
Luxury whispers in velvet dreams. Cyril laughs, but nothing's as it seems. Game of chance or a clever scheme. Hidden fortune stitched in the seam. You'll never know till you're caught in the street.
We're on at 8:30.
Where the secrets play. Under the cushions.
The cash will stay. Pala Pala, don't give it away. Rainy day, rainy day. Hey. Pala Pala, I'm sorry, DA. I'm not buying that no one's above the law. I appreciate the sentiment. Philip Holtzhausen just said, hi, Colonel. I did notice that you have more than one subscription model. I did take the 200 Rand something when you should promote things like this more. Travel's expensive. Well, it is, Philip. But honestly, a lot of this has been done out of the goodness of my heart. That's why the assaults and the attacks and the bigotry and racism and all the nonsense is just it's kind of disheartening. Because I do this largely out of my pocket. The money that I make from the channel doesn't begin to cover the cost of what I've done. But thank you, I appreciate it. And I don't promote, because I'm not trying to get people to pay for the channel. I know a lot of people are struggling, particularly in South Africa, which has now become a big portion of my audience. It used to be a third, then half. Now it's like 70% of my audience in South Africa. So I don't try to push that. The people who got money can sign up for something more and support the channel. I appreciate that. But anyway, so thank you for that. But listen, the DA, I appreciate their concern, their sentiments, not sediments. There's sediments in my coffee, not there's sentiments. But the reality is that Malema, by the way, the music interlude was intentional, folks. You'll notice that we had 810 people, and then when we started spanking trolls, we dropped to 770, and there were still some trolls floating around who were trying to stick some things in occasionally. I play the music and the trolls disappear. The trolls hate reggae. The DA is always grandstanding, says Maz. Yep. I saw that, however, I saw Ron Posa thought it was a good idea, a great exchange of energy. What's told them that Footsec can give my papers, I'll go elsewhere, says John. We want apartheid against white people, then white people still thrives, then the ANC blames apartheid again and brings up the word racist. Brendan, how's it going? Tyler doesn't have a reputation thanks to the terrorist ANC government that likes of Juju, says Leanne. Calls out whites, but he lives in a suburb amongst white people, and he bangs a white sugar in his small house on the side. He's got a little white girlfriend, too. I was told that it's not right to get a passport and ID. It's a favor. It is a right, Yolande. It is a right. It's not a favor. Charlie Cook explained that an eye for an eye isn't revenge, but rather the king's life is worth the same as a peasant. That's not the case here. Interesting. Yeah, just more government workers getting a salary. Oof, it's harsh. Good to go, everyone. Hey, how's it going, Werner? Eves Lombard. I think they miss Emma Powell. What is she doing now? When do you interview her again? Emma is not available. My last message to her said out of office and not available. So I was chatting with her a week or two ago, but I sent her a note. The Truth Channel. Nothing will happen to Malema. I agree, nothing will happen to Malema. Absolutely nothing is going to happen to him. You were correct about that. Lamola's media briefing said they're under no obligation to assist U.S. refugee programs. It's only preferential treatment for Afrikaners, apartheid 2.0. Well, then when I find that in the video, I will edit and I will castigate Ronnie Lamola for his bigotry and racism, because that's what it is. Again, he's a moron of epic proportion. It's quite clear on the U.S. Embassy website that the program is open to racial minorities, not to white Afrikaners. But the hate-wanking moron, failed Justice Minister, now failed Foreign Minister, little Ronnie Lamola, continues to lie. Continues to lie. There ought to be a consequence for these racists in South Africa who can constantly lie. At some point, they ought to be paying a price for their conduct. It's the bottom line. It's just, but one day it'll come for them. One day justice will come for them. Whether it's soon or on their deathbed, who knows? But it will come for them eventually. YouTube is telling me to put an ad in now. I'm not going to do that. Rama poses in favor of Japan, new labor. He must be in favor of what the Japanese still haven't. So that I don't know what you guys talking about. I know what's Japan, so what's all this conversation about Japan? Carte Blanche later shows, Savary says, South African asylum people in Ireland are being sent back. South African world is turning. Yeah, I know. Well, that's because the Irish government is racist too. It's racist against the Irish people. It's racist against South Africans. That's the bottom line. Republic of Ireland has a racist government against its own people. And you can see it in their actions and their behavior. Yep, absolutely. On a daily basis, that's how they behave. That's how they behave. All right, so we've covered the Freedom Front Plus's response. We covered AfriForum's response. We covered the Economic Freedom Fighters' response. At the time that I went to press, Malema had not responded to this as of yet, but I'm sure he will. I'm sure he'll dismiss it and complain about it, but the reality is that he's been found guilty and the judgment's against him. But again, he's unlikely to suffer any consequences here, folks. I don't think that Malema, we certainly won't do any jail time. He will appeal this, of course, and he'll appeal it to the court that made the judgment initially. I suspect that they'll reject it, and then he'll appeal it to the Supreme Court of Appeal, and who knows what they'll do. We've seen the Supreme Court of Appeal behave responsibly and irresponsibly. Remember the Tourism Relief Fund during the COVID scam, when the government said that up to 50,000 rand for historically disadvantaged businesses. So that excluded anybody who wasn't black. That's racist. That's against the Constitution. Yet the North Gauteng High Court said it was legitimate and legal, which of course gave the ANC time to run through all the funds and hand the money out in a patronage fashion before the Supreme Court of Appeal overturned that decision. And by then there was no money left. And the damage to businesses, to hotels, to tour operators, to restaurants was incalculable, and thousands failed. And many people still suffering in South Africa as a consequence of those actions. But that's so, I think Willem Petz earlier said, the courts work. Well, they work sometimes. They don't always work. 2 kids were killed and 17 injured in a shooting. Are you trying to say Minnesota, Fabian? In like Minnesota, in the Great Lakes, Minnesota, the leftist state in America? I think you've pronounced Minnesota in a phonetic fashion. I told you on Monday that there are representative houses in South Africa meeting in Durko. I didn't see what you said. Somebody's saying hello over there. What is this force city? I got to check into what happened in Japan. You guys keep talking about Japan. I really got to find out what Ramaphosa found out in Japan. Import cheap labor for African countries. Oh, that's going to go very well. The Japanese are already angry about the influx of people. Japan is one of the most homogenous countries in the world. And they're already angry about the influx of foreigners there. Of course, you go to Yokohama, it's international city since Admiral Perry opened it. To Japan, not so much. And they're very angry about anybody going there. They don't like the Gaijin going to, or Africans or Middle Easterners going to Japan and setting up camp. So I'm shocked to hear that the conservative government of Japan is actually proposing to import Africans as cheap labor. But there's a reason for it. The Japanese are dying off. I mean, their population peaked at about 130, 132 million. It's down to 121 million now and declining because they just don't have babies. They got some perverted pornography in that country, but they just don't have babies. And so their birth rate is negative, and so I guess that's why they import labor. But that's not going to go very well with the Japanese in general. I can tell you that now. Having been to Japan, that ain't going to float with them. The average Japanese person is not going to be happy about that. We've seen how the Chinese nationals, the communist Chinese, respond to Africans. They are among the most virulent racists on the planet that I've ever encountered. Virtually every Chinese national from communist China that I met while living in Africa, everywhere across the continent, was a virulent racist against black people. So it's interesting to see several million Africans actually living in China. But they go for economic reasons, and I understand why they go there. So they just put up with that racism. Come to South Africa and start a political party so we can vote for you. Well, you can't vote for me because I'm not a South African, and I have no desire to become a South African. As much as I love South Africa, your Green Mamba passport's about as worth as much as toilet paper right now. Why would I want that? Nope. I've got the golden ticket. Why would I want to give that up? All right, but thank you for the idea. Somebody around there smoking. Apparently, Japan went to solve their population. Yeah, that's that phrase. That's what I said. Their population decline. Yep. Japan seems to have introduced apartheid. Is that what it is? Ramaphosa is endorsing apartheid. I'm going to have to look more closely at that. 2 kids. Okay, that's the Minnesota thing. We stand by Malema in whatever way you quickly pride your whiteness to Africans after centuries demonizing blacks and bestial savages. Well, Franz Bam, here first off, you little pathetic hate wanker, you know, it's time to release your member because that blood flow is hampering your cognitive ability. Stop your self-gratification, release your member, and let the blood flow back to your brain. Centuries, I don't think any of us have been around for centuries bestializing anybody. I mean, I know I'm not over 100 years old, so I don't know what planet you're living on. And I don't bear the burden of guilt of anyone who came before me. You see, that's the magic of my country. That's the magic of a real country. We don't put the burden of people who came before us on the current generation. As Dr. King said, we judge people on the content of their character and their actions, not on their origins, not on their ethnicity, or the color of their skin. And that's the way people should be. So, Bam, obviously, you've got cloudy judgment. You're trying to troll. I thought you would have disappeared when I played the reggae, which is funny. Some of you're black, you think you might like reggae, but that would be a stereotype, wouldn't it? So dehumanizing blacks and bestial savage hatred. You are such a fucking moron. You know, you should find a new life, buddy. You're really sad to see the pathetic losers come on here and try to bring their racism and bigotry here. You know, there's plenty of places for that. Go to an EFF rally. They love that nonsense. But we don't tolerate it here. White people, brown people, black people, we're all people. We're all the same. Most of us put our pants on the same way or our skirts on the same way every day. And if there were a difference, if we were different races, we could knock boots and reproduce. So, Bam, find a new life. Find something else to do. Go to an EFF rally where they like your kind. Yeah, go live in your sad misery. white supremacy. You lunatics still talking about this fantasy of white supremacy. Again, where is this at? Please show me. 61 years old, never seen a Klan rally. Never seen these white supremacists. I've lived in a dozen African countries. Lived all over Western Europe. Lived all over North America. Been to 80 countries. Where is this white supremacy you lunatics talk about? It's in your head. It's in your fantasy. Japan is going to regret taking cheap. Yes, I think you're right about that. That's probably correct. We must be unburdened by what has been. Thank you, Kamala. Kamala Harris. Oh, don't bring that back. What a loser. Do you know, I don't think I've aired it yet, but I did. I recorded a video about that. So they broke federal election law, by the way. I don't know if you know this, but the Biden-Harris campaign, which became the Harris campaign, in 15 weeks burned $1.5 billion to be wiped out by Donald Trump, despite the fact that they put an illegitimate, unconstitutional judgment against him, which violated the 8th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution for unreasonable bail. They put a $500 million judgment against him because they assessed his cash assets to be about $500 million. And they made him put that as a bond. In the end, the judge lowered to $175 million, but he had to come up with $175 million, which they intended to prevent him from running for office because he wouldn't have the cash. It backfired. So Kamala Harris raised $1.5 billion from her corrupt friends in Hollywood on Wall Street, and she burned through that plus an extra $20 million. So in violation of federal election law, the Democratic National Committee gave her $20 million, and then she's been soliciting her support for more money to pay them back the $20 million that she got. That's illegal, by the way, folks. That's a criminal act. It's a felony. And and will they bother to prosecute? I don't know. There's so many criminals to prosecute in America right now on the political level that there isn't time for it. But yeah, so they committed a felony there. So thank you for reminding me about Kamala Harris. I forgot all about her. Reporter called President Trump a communist yesterday. Should be barred. Trump a communist? You can call Trump a lunatic. You can call him an egotistical, maniacal, crazy guy. But a communist? No. A communist? Why? Because the U.S. government has a stake in Intel now. I don't know why. Why do they call him a communist? That's funny. White supremacy is a story they created to support and justify the racism. Yep. All right. So there we go. So did Bam leave? Or are you still here, Bam? Bam, you still here? Did you imagine Kamala news? Oh, yeah, I can see it. What's the story about SWIFT? U.S. is threatening to disconnect us. You know, people keep saying the expat family Joubert, but where's the evidence of this? Someone yesterday said that was the case, and they referred me to House Resolution 2633 or whatever it is, 2633. That's Ronnie Jackson's legislation he submitted in February and went out to the committee in April and it hit the floor in July. That's the one that doesn't deny SWIFT banking. That's an effort to reassess the relationship between South Africa and the United States. The same bill that was introduced in February last year under bipartisan group. This time it's two Republicans, James from Michigan and Ronnie Jackson, the former personal physician of Barack Obama and Donald Trump while he was in the Navy. Ronnie Jackson submitted this as representative from Texas. That bill doesn't say anything about SWIFT banking. I think people are just making stuff up because they're hopeful or they want things. But to my knowledge, there's no movement to remove South Africa from the SWIFT banking system. But individuals, should that bill pass and be signed by the president into law, that would institute and constitute immediately an investigation by Congress or federal investigating authorities. And then depending on the outcome of that, they could use that report to sanction individuals, like what's happened in Zimbabwe, and remove them from the SWIFT banking system. See, that's why Mnangagwa wants to make nice with the U.S. now. He's like, oh, we want to be friends with the U.S. Yeah, we're gonna follow the rule of law. We'll get rid of your racist indigenization law, forcing me to give 51% of my equity up to people who are black, not Zimbabwean, but black Zimbabwean, and then we can talk. But Mnangagwa has all these millions of ill-gotten gains that he and ZANU-PF have fleeced from the people of Zimbabwe, and he can't spend it because he can't go to London, he can't go to the U.S., so he can't spend all the dollars he's got squirreled away in the bank. And the problem is that Amazon doesn't deliver to Harare, so he's screwed. And Take-A-Lot doesn't take dollars, so he's screwed. So he can't use his ill-gotten gains. So he's trying to make nice with the U.S. now to get back in the SWIFT banking system. That's the potential outcome for senior members of the ANC or members of the Government National Unity. But I wouldn't hold my breath on that, folks. That legislation went nowhere last year. It has a greater chance this year because Republicans control the House and the Senate, and Trump is, kind of irritated with the behavior of South Africa. So it has a chance of passing, but we're a long way from that happening. If it passed today, see, they're in recess. Congress is in recess right now. They're on holiday. They take all these vacations. They're useless turds, like parliaments around the world. They're just useless. So they're on vacation now. When they come back from their summer recess, if they put on the floor and they vote on it and it goes to Trump, let's say he signs by October 1st, it'll be a year before, 6 months minimum before anything comes out of that. It'll probably this time next year, even in a perfect timeline, before anybody's even in trouble. So, yeah, I wouldn't get too excited about that. Now, they should be back in a few weeks. Starlink put a few more satellites in orbit. Did you guys see the Starship launch? I watched it after the fact. Man, that was epic. I missed it. That sucks. I usually cover those things. Didn't go boom. This one made it. Pretty good launch. Pretty good launch. So how are we doing there? 700 right now, and we got 728 likes. Be sure to hit the like button, folks, if you don't mind. Getting people, how's the circus forming in South Africa doing? What very sad to hear about the shooting in Minnesota. Yeah, okay, let me go look for this Minnesota. That's what you guys are talking about. So there's a couple super chats came in. Let me deal with that before we move on. So El Marie says, have you seen on YouTube there's a lady that badmouthed you? She made a video about you. There's lots of people badmouth me on YouTube. I mean, you know, good judgment isn't something everybody has on YouTube. You're gonna have to give me more information than that, El Marie. Is it Miss Hepburn? Is it